Hello, everyone. I appreciate the time that you are sparing to listen to a message that I think will benefit your efforts as you work through this unique situation the world is facing. You serve a critical function in keeping this country on its feet. And to be respectful of your time, our goal is to get you the most relevant and impactful information on low-friction, high-confidence identity assessment that we can within 15 minutes. But just before we get started, I wanted to do a quick introduction of who you'll be hearing from today. So I'm Justin Hyde. I oversee our government civilian market strategy. I've been with LexisNexis for 10 years this week, and I've worked with many different unemployment insurance agencies in various roles that I've had with the company on the government team. Secondly is Dave Yeshik. He's a social services solution architect who's been with Lexis for 16 years architecting solutions for various government agencies and excelling particularly around our unemployment insurance initiatives. And last but certainly not least is Ryan Blackwood. He oversees our special investigations unit and our data analyst team. He's been with LexisNexis for over 8 years. And prior to that, he did intelligence for one of the agencies in the federal space. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm not going to follow your traditional presentation flow by going over problems or showing scary statistics or anything like that. I think we all understand the situation that we're all facing. The floodgates have opened, right? This caught us all off guard. But if we all work together and we can manage the flood we're seeing as effectively as we did when it was just a small stream a few weeks ago, I think we can do it. But there's key things that we must consider. Number one, there's huge volumes of people hitting your systems that must be served, like we've never seen. Second, your staff is working harder than ever, and we must make their life as easy as possible right now. And last, and certainly not least here, with any vulnerable situation like we're seeing right now, criminals are on the hunt, and they're doing so in tremendous fashion right now. We together must maintain some level of defense against the attacks on the systems, which will happen and are happening, and they will be at scale like we've never seen before. So when we saw this crisis shaping up a few weeks ago and went to work identifying ways we could support our market, we fell back on our team's guiding principles that we use under normal situations as we partner with unemployment insurance agencies and other agencies throughout the government. We realized that this is exactly how we need to proceed with our current partners and other unemployment insurance agencies that we don't currently partner with that could certainly use some help. Now, the workflows may not, or they may look a little different these days, but the core principles really stay the same. We must all work together. Communication and collaboration between public and commercial entities is important now more than ever. Sharing best practices and sharing intelligence, and even sharing what may not be working so we can all get better. We, as LexisNexis, we have some great assets that can help our government agency partners with their identity assessments. We have great physical identity data. We have great digital identity data and intelligence. And we can help support all initiatives with these two big things. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. And team familiarity. We, LexisNexis, we've really made it our mission in the government team to have a dedicated team whose sole mission is really to help serve our government clients. We don't focus anywhere else. We just focus on government clients because we know there's a lot of specifics around that. We have to understand that. We have to partner with them. We have to really understand the problems so we can get the solutions and we can address their problems more effectively. So the focus of our discussion today is around assessing an identity that wants to establish a relationship with your agency. And we know there's a ton of them coming in. The goal here is to help your agency do what they do, but adjusting for the influx in claims as well as the certain likelihood for attacks against the program. And just to properly frame the solution that Dave and Ryan, our experts, will discuss here in a little bit, I wanted to start with really the why we think this would be a good approach for what you're doing. And it starts with the data we have. So this slide here, it gives a snapshot of the data that we consider physical data, which we gather from over 10,000 different data sources and continuously update, which gives you the best understanding of what an identity that comes into your system should look like, as far as like name, their address, their social security number, phone numbers, all that stuff that you have to verify when they come into your system. And because of the vast financial and non-financial data that we have, we're able to see the credit invisible people. We see synthetic identities. We see dead people. So what this does, it provides you with the ability to screen more people. And it also allows you to see if there's a stolen identity or synthetic identity being used. Both of these functions are extremely critical right now, as you can imagine. You got to get people through who need your help. Now, taking the remote identity assessment, which we're doing here right now, everything's remote. Layering our digital identity assets is critical, and really understanding what an identity should look like from a digital perspective. From assessing a device and its hundreds of attributes to having a holistic understanding of a person's digital behavior, this is critical. It provides a whole new way to not only corroborate an identity to get into the system quicker and easier, but it also prevents risk if somebody's full identity, for example, has been compromised and used to try to claim benefits. And Ryan will show you an actual recent statistic of what this looks like through the solution that we're going to discuss here in a little while. The digital intelligence is made possible through a network of over 6,000 companies, millions and millions of daily transactions to draw a really robust picture of what a person looks like from a digital transaction perspective, from the device itself to the behavior of the user. Now, just to put it in perspective, using myself as an example on how this works. So I have like over 15 devices in my home, from smartphones to iPads, smart TVs, all my kids learning things. I've inherently created it, me and my family have inherently created this digital profile by the devices that we use, the services we utilize, and the velocity of which we use them. So knowing that now allows my bank, my credit card, my Netflix account to know if someone else tries to transact with them using my information, as well as making my normal transactions even easier because they recognize me. They can push me through much quicker. We can immediately assess the risk of the transaction and the user at the other end. So again, if somebody tries to steal my PII, they can't replicate my digital identity. And again, this is, you can imagine, highly relevant for your agencies right now. So combining both digital and physical identity assets into a single transaction, you can more quickly pass large volumes of claimants through your identity assessment process, and with much more confidence that they are who they say they are, by already knowing what an identity should look like from both a physical and digital perspective when interacting remotely with your agency. So with that, I want to pass this over to Dave Yeshik to talk more specifically about the actual solution that we've architected for UI agencies, and which is highly relevant to the situation we're facing here at the moment. That's it, Dave?
Yeah, so the fraud point with Digital Insight, a solution, can be accessed by your agency two ways. The first way is a batch process, where the agency would send in the claimant's PII information along with the IP address that the claimant came from and the email and phone number on the claim. Once LexisNexis receives this data, we then compare those data elements against our Digital Insight scores as well as our traditional physical fraud point scores. The goal of our physical and digital scores is to auto-approve as many claimants as possible, which streamlines the identity checks without delaying payment. The LexisNexis Digital Insight scores are driven by the power of our digital identity network. This network contains over 1.4 billion unique digital identities from over 140 million daily transactions. This massive amount of digital data is the basis of our 150 model-ready digital attributes that contribute to our Digital Insight scores. By looking at things such as the event outcome of a digital transaction, the behaviors of an online user, and then layering on known fraud data from across industries, our Digital Insight scores are proven to weed out risky transactions while also speeding up the claim process by only identifying those claims that are trying to do harm to your agency. To give a little bit more depth of how this score works and what it identifies, Ryan Blackwell will talk to you about the analysis that we've been doing.
Thanks, Dave. So thinking about the product and the workflow that Dave just outlined above and the hundreds of different attributes in the physical as well as in the digital identity space, we took a day's worth of transactions from a UI agency last week, so in the midst of the current crisis. It was about 18,000 identities. We took these identities and ran them through the FraudPoint Digital Insight solution, and we placed the results into about 4 different scoring buckets. So as you can see, those 4 different scores, the lower the score, the higher the risk. So in this instance, as you can see, identities receiving a score of 300 to 450 was highly risky, which means that 94% of the identities would have been passed through the authentication process. So only 6% of the identities were considered extremely high risk and would necessitate further scrutiny. So you take that with my team, the Special Investigations Unit, we would help you analyze and research these identities. So you are focusing your time and attention on getting benefits out to those that need them while working those identities that actually pose a risk to your system, really taking a more targeted approach to identity and risk. You know, I did want to take a moment to also mention some of the things that we saw within the data, some of the actual identities and why they were risky. Some examples of those, we saw multiple identities, instances where those identities had been flagged as stolen in the digital identities network. We also saw identities whose email addresses had been seen transacting on over 100 different devices. That's an enormous amount of devices for one email address. We saw multiple identities where the email address that has been associated to over 9 different phone numbers in the past month, which we have found to be highly correlated with instances of fraud and identity theft. We saw multiple identities using IP addresses outside the country, which is a pretty basic search. Overall, we found identities utilizing typical patterns of fraud, such as using an address or a phone number not associated with them in public records. But we also saw instances where we would have never been able to see them unless we had access to that digital identities network. And those are just a few examples of different types of attributes and instances that we had seen. But I think it would be remiss if I didn't mention some of those. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'll throw it back to Justin to finish up.
Excellent. Thanks, Ryan. So, you know, based off of what Ryan did on real information recent from a UI agency, there's definitely, you know, this solution will definitely work, right? The key is to make sure we get as many good people through an expeditious manner as we can, that we reduce staff burden in doing so, but we still stop the bad guys. Those that he stopped, that we stopped in our analysis, are bad, right? You don't want them in your program. You got to protect it. So very, very great information there, Ryan. We appreciate that. You know, the key is to get it in your hands, right? Getting it in the hands of the agencies quickly. We offer this as a real-time XML service, but understanding that agencies aren't necessarily in the best position to do an integration, we have a batch solution whereby we can provide results through a CSV file, all with the full support of Ryan's team to both ensure the effectiveness of the particular solution on your particular situation, as well as providing additional analysis of the transactions throughout our relationship to help you find more things and help you continuously improve your process. And we also provide full project management support to get you connected and stood up as soon as possible. And our operation teams have also committed to expediting onboarding process to make sure we get the solution to you as soon as possible. We're all in. We want to make this as simple, as effective for you as possible. So looks like we did pretty good on our time. We're coming in right under 15 minutes. So, you know, and just to finish up here, I would just say, you know, if you have a relationship with LexisNexis, I'd strongly suggest that you reach out to your sales or project contact. But if you don't and have questions, please feel free to reach out to me personally. I'm Justin, at the information that you see there, or any of the other teammates that you heard from today, or our National Sales Director, Bill Arnells. We're happy to support you in any way that we can. you're helping the country. So we want to do our part and help you help people. We'll be providing a link, this recording, for all of those who couldn't join. So if you get a copy of this link, please help us spread the message. So again, we can all be in this together. We can all help this country come out in a better place. Our mission is to support you. So we're here at your service. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time.